Now, leaked excerpts from Prince Harry's memoir Spare have made huge waves in the British media and beyond. The most salacious involve a physical fight with his brother, the Prince of Wales. But it's the Duke's accounts of his time serving as a British soldier in Afghanistan that have prompted criticism from army veterans, including from my next guest, Colonel Richard Kemp, a retired British commanding officer. Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Tell us, what is it you find offensive about Prince Harry's comments?
I don't actually find them offensive. What I do find, I find them concerning and ill-judged, mainly because of the comments he made in which he suggested that British soldiers are trained to treat or to see their enemy, for example, the Taliban, as being less than human, as being subhuman, and just chess pieces to be swiped off the board. Now, that is not right. It's not the way that British soldiers are trained. It probably is the sort of language that sounds good in Hollywood and sells books, but it isn't reality. And my biggest concern with this is that those sort of comments feed straight into the jihadist propaganda machine and can be used to radicalize and incite jihadists to carry out attacks. And so that is my biggest concern with the comments that I've read from his book.
Right, and we've already had a response from the Taliban, haven't we? Do you think that the Duke has put British soldiers at risk?
Not specifically soldiers. I think, as I said, I think this feeds into their propaganda and therefore makes their propaganda more effective, and potentially could lead, to somebody who wasn't planning to carry out an attack to actually do so against the UK, not specifically against soldiers. We've had a lot of jihadist attacks over here. Not as many, I'm happy to say, as you have over there, unfortunately. But nevertheless, they're a relatively frequent occurrence. And this could actually make that worse. As far as the Taliban comments are concerned, they've said that Prince Harry has confessed to his war crimes when, of course, it's part of their propaganda. It's an example of what I mean. They're the ones, of course, who are the war criminals. And everything that Harry said he did, and we know he did, is certainly not war crimes. It's legitimate acts of war.
Well, it's a private memoir, isn't it? I mean, is it not his prerogative as a former soldier to share his personal experiences? Is it healthy to have this kind of code of silence imposed on soldiers?
There is no code of silence imposed on soldiers, and he's perfectly entitled to say what he thinks about what he did, and I'm also perfectly entitled to criticise him for what he says, and particularly in this case when he has made what I consider to be false allegations against the way the army trains their soldiers. A lot of other people, not me, but a lot of people have said, have expressed contempt or disgust at him saying he killed 25 Taliban. I don't see that really as being a problem generally. We know he killed Taliban. He was an attack helicopter crew member. We killed a lot of Taliban out in Afghanistan. And so there's nothing new about this. But my observation on that point is that he is very concerned about his own personal security. And coming out with this sort of thing is only going to make his security worse. It's going to raise the threat to him. But you're absolutely right that he's completely entitled to say whatever he likes. But he's not entitled, in my view, to give the wrong impression about British military training, which then potentially could feed into jihadist propaganda.
He says he didn't get enough support once he left the army, perhaps alluding to some form of PTSD. Are British soldiers given enough support when they come out of war zones?
Well, it's a very good question. There is, certainly over recent years, there's been a significant increase to the extent of psychological support that soldiers receive. Many do suffer from PTSD, having fought in places like Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places. And it's always obviously very hard to pin that down and identify it. But the support depends on to quite a big extent on the individual soldier asking for it, because people can't read their minds. And if he didn't get enough support, perhaps he didn't ask for the support that he needs. I would sort of somewhat question that, given his position. He speaks elsewhere in the book about having his own psychiatrist or shrink, whatever you call it.
Kemp. We're out of time.
Therefore, I think
Okay.
had access.
We're out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.